Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we are wrestling with what might be one of the most exhausting universal human problems out there. That's the incredible effort, the sheer struggle that goes into trying to create unity.
Right. The building part.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Think about it. Whether you're leading an organization, maybe constantly rewriting the mission statement, hoping the infighting stops.
Or just trying to get through a holiday dinner with family, navigating all those arguments.
Yes. There's this constant heavy feeling like the whole structure is just, fragile.
And that somehow the divine task of holding it all together rests on your shoulders, your flawed shoulders.
Which naturally generates deep anxiety. You feel you have to be this architect of unity. And frankly, it's just burning people out.
That sense of exhaustion, that anxiety, that's precisely the starting point for the sources we looked at today. And what's really fascinating here, the mission isn't to give you, better conflict resolution tools, not better blueprints for building. It's actually about a complete narrative and identity overhaul. The material offers this really powerful strategy. It's designed to resolve that whole misunderstanding by helping you make a critical paradigm shift.
A shift from what to what?
From seeing yourself as an architect of unity, the builder, to seeing yourself as an heir of a unified kingdom.
Wow. Okay, just hearing that framing offers a kind of psychological relief, doesn't it?
It really does.
So we're moving from this tiring work of construction based on our own performance to the revelation of an inheritance that's, already complete.
Exactly. And we'll use this central narrative strategy from the sources, they call it the parable of the two estates, to walk us through this identity switch.
And show us why it changes, pretty much everything.
Precisely.
Okay, let's unpack these two core identities that the sources lay out, the builder and the heir.
Right. They might exist side by side, maybe even in the same community, but they operate out of completely different realities.
So tell us about the builders.
Okay, so for the builders, their identity is entirely wrapped up in their skill and their performance, how well they do the job.
Right.
They get handed this incredibly complex, massive blueprint, the ideal for their community or organization, and they're told, okay, build this great house where everyone can live together.
Sounds stressful already.
It is, because their worth, and maybe more importantly, the stability of the whole house, it all depends on their execution. So they're constantly anxious.
Makes sense.
And the sources say they form factions almost immediately. The masons start bickering with the carpenters over which material is better.
Classic.
They argue bitterly over interpreting the blueprint, and they're constantly judging each other on performance. Are you doing it right? Are you messing it up?
Yeah, I can picture that.
That's why their structure is inherently fragile, you see. It's always just one mistake away from potentially collapsing because it relies on, flawed human perfection.
Wow. Okay. And the contrast then, when we look at the identity of the heirs, it sounds like it's going to be pretty stark.
Oh, absolutely stunning. For the heirs, their identity isn't based on what they do at all or how well they manage conflict.
Okay.
Their identity is simply child and heir. That's it. The source material is really explicit. Their task isn't construction.
Not building. So what is it?
It's inhabitation and exploration.
Inhabitation.
Yeah.
So if the builder's exhausted because they feel like they're holding up the ceiling, what's the heir's job?
The heir's job is to learn how to live in the home that was already provided for them. It's a total shift, from production to reception, from anxiety to gratitude.
So they get security first.
Yes, security first. And then they figure out how to live together within that security.
Okay. That sets the stage perfectly for this core narrative you mentioned, the parable of the two estates.
Right.
So imagine two groups, right? Both given a vast piece of land by the king for their shared future. And the story really illustrates the crucial difference in their starting points.
Exactly. So the first group, the builders, they get their plot of land and that incredibly complicated blueprint we talked about.
Okay.
And what happens next is, completely predictable. Immediate chaos.
They don't even start building.
Nope. Before they even lay a foundation, they're arguing. Disagreeing over materials. Should we use traditional methods or something new? Should we prioritize this or that? They argue over the blueprint itself. Is this interpretation right or is yours wrong? It gets theological, methodological.
Right. Doctrine, practice.
Exactly. And they form these competing wings, constantly undermining each other because each side believes the entire project, the king's whole plan, is riding on their correct interpretation and execution.
So they're stuck.
They basically never leave the foundation stage. It's just constant conflict and fragility.
Okay, but then the heirs, they get their land too. What happens to them?
They arrive and they are met with a completely different reality. It's stunning. They arrive and they are just shocked. They find this magnificent, perfect, completely unshakable estate already built for them.
Already built. By who?
By the king's son, who, it turns out, is a master architect. The house is flawless.
Wow.
And the king basically says, this is your home. It is finished. My son has made you all my children, and this is your shared inheritance. Live in it.
That's the big flip right there, isn't it?
Huge.
The builder is exhausted trying to build something that always feels like it's about to collapse, and the heir just walks into something that cannot collapse.
Precisely. And think about the implications for the heirs here. This is key.
Okay.
Because the structure is secure, it's finished, the inheritance is shared, and guaranteed their disagreements completely change in nature.
How do they change? They still disagree, presumably.
Oh, sure. They still disagree. But the disagreements shift from being, existential threat.
Right, threats to the foundation.
To be more like minor domestic disputes.
Like what?
Well, the heirs might bicker loudly over how to arrange the furniture in the living room. Or they might have really strong opinions about what flowers to plant in the garden.
Okay, I see. Normal family stuff.
Exactly. But those issues, however passionate, they never, ever threaten the foundation of the house itself.
Because the house is secure.
The house is secure regardless of their performance or their squabbles.
I think that's the really powerful aha moment this whole narrative delivers, isn't it?
It really is.
The paradigm shift happens when a builder, someone stuck in that anxiety, realizes, wait a minute, my exhaustion is totally optional.
Yes.
They get permission, kind of, to just lay down their flawed tools, toss out those complicated blueprints everyone fights over, and simply walk through the front door of the finished estate they were already given. It was theirs all along.
It's a profound realization.
But hang on, I have to ask the critical question here. I imagine some listeners thinking this. If the house is already finished, doesn't that make all our effort meaningless?
Good question.
Where does the motivation for good works, for cooperating, striving for excellence, where does that come from if the unity part is already done?
That's a crucial point, and the sources are really clear on this. The motivation doesn't disappear, it shifts.
Just from what to what?
It shifts from fear to gratitude.
Okay.
See, the builder works desperately to earn security and belonging, to build the house so they won't be kicked out.
Right. Performance-based acceptance.
Exactly. But the heir works from a place of already having security and belonging. They work out of gratitude for the gift.
So the heirs still have a job to do.
Oh, absolutely. Their job is to inhabit the space beautifully, to manage the estate well, and crucially, to love the family they share it with.
Okay.
But the stakes are just fundamentally different. They're lowered from existential foundational crisis
to domestic management and relationships.
Right. How do we live well together in this amazing place we've been given?
That makes sense. It reframes effort completely.
And this connects directly to how this narrative helps us resolve what the sources call the forest for the trees problem.
Right, getting lost in the detail.
Exactly. When you're a builder, you are absolutely lost among the trees. Every little detail feels monumental. Because the stakes feel impossibly high. You think you are responsible for holding up the sky, for keeping the house standing.
Okay, let's define those trees more concretely.
Yeah.
Give us some everyday examples, because these are the things that cause division for builders constantly.
Sure. The trees are things like arguments over specific doctrinal interpretations. They treat these like arguments over the blueprint itself. If we get this tiny detail wrong, we fail the king, the house falls.
Okay, what else?
Arguments over methodology, maybe church budgets, worship styles.
Yeah.
They treat these like arguments over building materials. If we spend money on that kind of outreach or sing those kinds of songs, the whole foundation will weaken.
Right. Everything feels structural.
Precisely. For the builder, if just one brick seems out of place, maybe one person is performing poorly by their standards, or one policy seems slightly flawed, the entire structure feels threatened. The whole wall might crumble.
That sounds exhausting.
It is. But the heirs, because they know the house is finished, they're given the ability to step back.
And see
the forest, which is the objective, indestructible reality of unity already accomplished in the king's son. That finished structure is the secure reality.
So how does that change how they view disagreements?
Well, for the heirs, an intense argument over, say, the wording of a mission statement or a particular worship style, it isn't seen as a threat to the foundation of the house at all.
Okay.
One of the sources, the game plan document, describes it brilliantly. It's like having a disagreement about what picture to hang on the wall of a mansion.
Huh. Okay, that puts it in perspective.
Or maybe a personal offense occurs between two heirs. It isn't a crack in the foundation threatening collapse.
It's
just a mess made in the living room that the family needs to clean up together.
Right. The unity itself is never actually at stake.
Never. Only the harmony within the house is at stake, and that's something the family works on together.
That is a massive difference in perspective.
Yeah.
Huge.
It really is.
So the result of this whole paradigm shift, it's transformative because it immediately lowers those existential stakes we keep talking about.
Exactly. We move from that place of fear-based construction, always worrying that we are going to fail the divine task,
to a place of faith-based inhabitation.
Yeah.
Enjoying the gift. Living in the gift we've been given.
Now, let's maybe connect this powerful story even more explicitly to the theological bedrock that the sources draw from. Let's make these abstract concepts really concrete for you listening.
Good idea.
So, the magnificent estate.
Yeah.
It isn't just a nice metaphor. Theologically, it represents the finished work of reconciliation in Christ.
The work he completed.
Yes. And the king's son, the master architect who built it and guaranteed its structure, well, that's Jesus Christ, of course, are a shared, secure title to this home, the deed, if you will. That's grace. It's a gift, not earned.
Okay.
And crucially, there's a guide dwelling in the home, someone who helps us live together peaceably within it.
And that guide is?
The King's Spirit, the Holy Spirit. So this isn't just about a building, it's a living spiritual reality we inhabit.
And the sources go even one step further, don't they? To help us understand how this kind of perfect unity is even possible. They reference the Trinity.
They do, as the basis for communal love. They use this theological term, perichoresis.
Okay, perichoresis.
Okay.
For listeners who might not be familiar with that bit of jargon, can you break that down in simple terms? What does that mean?
Yeah, absolutely. It sounds complex, but the idea is beautiful. Perichoresis basically describes the mutual indwelling, the perfect dynamic union within the Godhead Father, Son, and Spirit.
Okay, mutual indwelling.
Yeah, the sources describe it poetically as a perfect dance of self-giving love. Think of it as this constant, flawless, circular flow of giving and receiving honor, love, and glory between the persons of the Trinity.
The dance, like that.
It's a great image, and here's the powerful point the sources make. We are not invited to try and build some fragile human structure that vaguely mirrors this perfect dance.
Oh, we're invited to.
We are invited to walk into the perfect structure that has already been built and join the dance that has been going on perfectly for all eternity.
Wow. So we enter the environment.
Yes. We enter the environment. We don't construct it. We're invited into that reality, not left struggling at some frustrating construction site trying to build it ourselves.
That really does raise the most important question then, for you, the listener. How does actually believing this change how we approach disagreements day to day?
Exactly.
The research emphasizes, that our reconciliation to God in Christ is the very basis for our reconciliation with each other. So if that premise holds true, if we really are all heirs together in the same finished house, how does seeing others through that lens as family rather than, say, fellow stressed out laborers, how does that change our actions within this shared house?
Well, the GamePlan.pdf source actually offers some pretty specific advice for heirs dealing with conflict, contrasting it with how builders react.
Okay, like what?
Builders tend to see a disagreement as a fundamental threat. It requires aggressive defense of their position, maybe even separation to protect the true blueprint.
Right, build higher walls.
Yeah, but heirs, because they know the house is secure, see a disagreement more like a maintenance issue that needs shared responsibility.
The maintenance issue, explain that.
Okay, so say two heirs are fighting over a point of doctrine or interpretation. Instead of threatening to tear down the building or kick the other person out, the sources encourage them to, metaphorically speaking, look up at the ceiling together, remember the solid roof over their heads.
Acknowledge the shared foundation.
Exactly. They cooperate with the guide, the Spirit, to find a way to live together, understanding that the fundamental truth they both share in the foundation is infinitely greater and more secure than the details they're arguing about in the living room.
Okay, so the goal here as we wrap up is really transformation, isn't it? Not just absorbing information.
Definitely.
And the sources really invite active participation from the listener. So we've covered this core identity shift from builder to heir.
Right.
Which means Our primary question has to fundamentally shift too.
How so?
Well, it's no longer, how do we build this thing correctly so it doesn't collapse and we don't get kicked out?
Yeah, that anxious question.
Instead, it becomes, how do we, as a family of heirs, joyfully and peacefully live together in this incredible, finished home our Father has already given us?
It changes the whole conversation, doesn't it?
Completely. It shifts it away from obligation and fear towards stewardship and maybe even celebration.
Yeah, I think so. So the challenge for you listening this week is really a direct call to inhabitation and cooperation.
Okay.
We encourage you to maybe identify one specific area in your life. Could be small, could be large, where you notice you're currently acting like a builder.
How would I know?
Well, where do you feel that anxiety, that pressure that it all depends on you? Maybe it's an organizational policy you're stressing over endlessly, or a relationship you feel solely responsible for fixing through your own perfect effort. Find that spot.
Okay.
And then instead of picking up that heavy tool of construction again, consciously ask the King Spirit, the guide who lives in the home with you, to help you just pause and try to live as an heir in that specific situation just for a moment.
How would that look?
Ask yourself, how can I approach this conflict or this responsibility from a place of underlying security rather than that familiar anxiety? What changes if I know the house is already standing?
Okay. That's a practical challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it's the final provocative thought to leave people with.
Yeah.
It's based on that powerful call in the source material. Cooperate with the Spirit to see the unity that already exists with someone you find difficult.
That's a tough one.
It is. But consider this. If you truly believe the house is finished, if you truly believe the foundation is secure because of what the King's Son did, what exhausting, flawed tool, maybe one you've been clinging to for years, what tool can you finally lay down this week?
Just put it down.
Just find that one thing, that burden of building you've been carrying, and mentally, maybe even physically, just drop it at the front door of the estate. See what happens.